It is commonly thought that breaking a young horse involves resistance and fear, and that horses are easier to train when tired or worn down, so there is no choice but to obey. The command, "dominate that horse," has long been heard in the horse world. There is much credence given to the idea that horses resist instinctively, responding to the ancient fear of predators on their backs. Training methods used to overcome that resistance include sacking out and bucking out, forcing a horse to give in. These methods fail to recognize or encourage a horse's intelligence and willingness to cooperate when given a chance. Those training methods worked sufficiently throughout the centuries when horses used for work or transportation were inexpensive and trainers were tough and experienced. However, there are major differences in modern times. Today, horses have two primary uses in our lives: pleasure and performance. Horses used for performance and competition have great physical and mental expectations put upon them. Injuries often incurred from forceful methods of training can reduce the value and performance potential of a young horse. For pleasure, we want a horse with an attitude of trust and partnership. The first steps of training under saddle based on a foundation of trust can prepare a horse for a lifetime of cooperation and pleasure. With today's improved technology, it's time to bring modern information into the traditional field of horsemanship. We need to take advantage of increased information about horses' nervous systems, their learning ability, and forms of communication with them. We need to realize that horses have varying degrees of intelligence, just like humans, and by considering their levels of intelligence and understanding, the training process can be easier, faster, and safer for both horse and rider. With the Tellington approach, a person with limited experience can start their own young horse under saddle. Linda Tellington-Jones combines a lifetime of equestrian experience and classical training with a modern-day understanding of the learning capacity of the horse. Her background in the horse world is broad and unusually varied. Linda's 24-year professional horse showing career includes major wins in endurance, eventing, dressage, steeplechase, hunters, jumpers, and both Western and English classes. In 1961, Linda set a record which was unbroken for 7 years in the Oklahoma Jim Shoulders 100 miles in one day endurance race. In 1969, she was a founding member of the California Dressage Society. Linda has been an accredited judge in the American Horse Show Association and the North American Trail Ride Conference, and introduced endurance riding and trail horse competition into Europe in the 1970s. Here's Linda working in Moscow with the Olympic gold winner in dressage, Alina Peteskova.
I asked Linda, maybe she will give me some kind of advice and help.
So what we're going to do...
In the 1960s and 70s, she coordinated and taught the first adult education courses in horse management, psychology, and training for a number of colleges, including the University of California. In these courses, she amazed amateurs and professionals alike with her ability to lunge, drive, saddle, and ride a horse for the first time in one session without fear or bucking. Linda has co-authored 3 books: Endurance and Competitive Trail Riding, Physical Therapy for the Horse, and a book in German called The Tellington Method. Her work has been published in magazines on 3 continents since the early 1960s, when the Tellingtons wrote a monthly column for the Western Horseman called Let's Go. In the 1980s, her training methods have been featured in Equus and Practical Horseman, as well as innumerable publications in 15 countries. She currently co-authors a syndicated column on the team training method in 14 magazines in 5 countries, and has been a major contributor since 1971 to the German magazine Freizeit im Sattel. In 1961, Linda and her husband Wentworth Tellington founded the Pacific Coast Equestrian Research Farm, a center for clinical studies of management, training, conditioning, and feeding of the suburban horse. In 1964, the Tellingtons created the Pacific Coast School of Horsemanship, a 9-month residential program for instructors and trainers which attracted students from 36 states and 9 foreign countries. In 1975, a new ingredient was introduced into Linda's equestrian work. She enrolled in a 4-summer professional training program at the Humanistic Psychology Institute with Dr. Moshe Feldenkrais, a famed Israeli physicist. His work with the human nervous system was known to overcome untreatable physical problems, to increase performances in athletes and dancers, and to improve human awareness and potential for learning. Dr. Feldenkrais made a statement that changed her life's work with horses. A nervous system can learn in one experience as long as there is no fear involved. The key was the use of non-habitual movements. In applying this to horses, Linda began finding ways of working on the horse's body without causing fear or pain, using movements which the horse could not do himself. This work brought about changes in behavior, personality, way of going, and willingness to learn. From 1975 to 1980, Linda spent winters in Germany working with hundreds of problem horses and their amateur owners in clinics. Integrating the Feldenkrais work into her horse training, she developed ways that the amateur owner could retrain their problem horses or start their young horses using this system, now called the Tellington-Jones Equine Awareness Method, or T.E.A.M training. Using the T.E.A.M approach for starting young horses, their bodies are prepared with the Tellington touch and develop focus, balance, and coordination with the ground exercises before they are ever ridden. This unique method emphasizes reward, kindness, and cooperation. Linda feels that every horse owner is capable of using the T.E.A.M approach for starting young horses. Here is your opportunity to learn the touch from the creator of T.E.A.M, Linda Tellington-Jones.
Today we're going to start with a young horse who's already trained to lead and to tie, who is accustomed to being groomed, and who has learned to trust humans. The method which I'm going to show you is called the T.E.A.M method. That is Tellington-Jones Equine Awareness Method. And it has basically 3 phases. The first phase is a type of touch, a circular touch, which brings a new awareness to your horse before you ever have to put a saddle on it or get on its back, so that your horse develops a self-confidence and an ability to think instead of just respond out of reflex. The second phase is the ground exercises. I'm going to be showing you a number of exercises which will help your horse to improve its balance and coordination, again, before you get on its back. And exercises which will also help to make that horse safer. This includes ground driving, and I'm going to show you how to do this so that you don't get into trouble if you're not experienced. The third phase, of course, is the riding, and in that I'm going to show you how to mount your young horse without trauma and without bucking, and to be able to ride off so that your horse understands the commands, the aids for walk and stop and turn before you ever have to get into a struggle. So that you form a team of understanding and confidence. So let's go on out now to the paddock and get started with this young horse.
This is Copper Shoal, a T.E.A.M practitioner who will be assisting Linda today in her training sessions with Robbie.
Now, before we begin to work with Robbie, we're just going to turn him loose and let him play a few minutes and get some of the kinks out and get acquainted with this area. It's much easier to let him play freely than to have him wanting to play when I'm working him on the lunge line or doing something with him where he needs to pay attention. So we'll just let him go here a moment. Step back. That's the way. Now, to work him, instead of using a regular cotton lead rope, I'm going to show you how to use a 30-inch stud chain, and it must be 30 inches long. with a nylon lead so that he learns obedience and to pay attention from the very beginning. Because your training starts now on the ground, not when you get on a horse's back. When he learns to be obedient all the time, not asking questions but listening, he'll be much more manageable and willing. So I put the stud chain on, not under the chin because that's sensitive under here, but instead I put it across the nose where he's going to have the clearest signal. And I go straight in from the outside, across the noseband, and not like this, but rather one time across the noseband so that this chain catches now and is on top of the band itself and doesn't press on his nose, and it also doesn't fall down and irritate him. So that's how it looks. And then I snap up to the top ring with this little knob out. Now, many of you think, well, I don't need that. I can train my horse just with a normal rope under the chin of the halter. But it will make a big difference if you will simply try this. You'll see that you'll have at least 50% more control from the very first 5 minutes that you use the chain in this way. This touch, called the Tellington touch, has the effect of developing a new communication between you and your horse, so that the horse really wants to work for you. Seems to be something nice that you can do for them. It's described by the Smithsonian Institute that some of the Indian tribes actually used to tame wild horses by catching them and going all over them with their hands until the horse just no longer resisted and actually seemed to enjoy the contact. And we've also found that with horses that don't like to be handled, that don't like to be caught, that doing these circular touches all over the body and the head in just a few days, sometimes as little as 2 or 3 days, will change the horse so much that they'll actually start coming up to you instead of running off to the far end of the pasture or the far end of the paddock. To do this circle, relax the hand and visualize a clock. And I visualize here that I'm starting at 6 o'clock and I go up around to 12, over to 3, back down to 6, and then I actually pass 6, and at 7 I pause and release. And I actually mess the hair up a little bit here to show you the circle more effectively, but here, you see, I try more to press the skin and muscle around in that circle. So I don't actually move the hair. I don't move across the hair. And what this seems to do is to release the tension. The clockwise circle has a tendency to strengthen, and the counterclockwise seems to weaken. So most of the time you'll be doing clockwise circles. Sometimes you'll find your fingers wanting to go in the other direction, in which case I just observe that and trust it a little bit and finish off with a clockwise circle in the area. When you finish, just take a sort of a firm wipe across the area you've been working in to reintegrate the feeling in the horse's brain. I want him to learn to keep his head still when I hold him like this and to lower it on command. And since he has a naturally quiet head carriage, we're going to use another horse to show the difference. I want to show you on a horse that's high-headed how to bring this head down. High-headed goes along with high-strung. So if we want them to be quiet, we teach the horse to lower the head on command. That's it. Hold, hold, bring it down. Now, when he resists like that, I won't wrestle with him. I'll just ask him to bring the head down from pressure on the nose. And this is the easiest way to start them. Oh, keep your head down there. That's it. Good boy. So once he's come down from a little pressure on the chain and the pressure on the hand, I'll just teach him to stay there. That's a boy. And now I can just easy kind of slip around there so that I can then teach him by a little massage behind the ears to lower that head. So that when I'm riding a horse and he suddenly starts to get upset at something that's strange in the area, I can reach up from his back and just massage this neck and he'll lower his head, because the flight reflex is triggered when that head is thrown up. So by keeping that just a little above level, we teach the horse to override the flight reflex. Good. Now the other piece of equipment that I'm going to start with is a 4-foot stiff whip. Now this whip, which we call a wand because it works like magic, it's not used for punishment. It's used to work like a long arm in order to touch the horse in ways that he gets accustomed to accepting and listening for a signal. Many people say that when they first get on their horses that they refuse to go forward, that they just stand there. And it's because they don't understand that you want them to go forward. So we begin from the ground, teaching your horse to go forward from a signal. And I'm going to take him right now and I'm going to teach him whoa and go. Many people are afraid to use the stud chain like this because they've seen horses abused with it. And of course the reason that people use it mostly is because the horse doesn't listen. They're fussing around like this or they're playing, and so they put a stud chain on in order to control them. But the chain alone doesn't do anything if you don't have some means of keeping your horse back, which is what we use the wand for, keeping them away, teach that horse to keep its distance, and teach him to come forward from a specific signal. Oh. And I use this whole idea of the wand in place of sacking out, instead of sacking out. And the reason I do this is that I want the horse to learn to use this brain. It's much easier for me to work with a few pounds of brain than 1,000 pounds of horse. And so I'm going to teach him not to be afraid, and he is well accustomed to people, so he's not afraid. If you have a horse that's afraid of the wand like this, just take a few minutes, sometimes it takes 10 minutes, have someone assist you and come up with a shallow pan full of oats and just let him eat here a moment while he gets used to being touched all over. They may jump around a little bit. Some people say it takes them as much as 2 or 3 days with a horse which is really frightened in order to get them over the fear. But it's well worth it, because what we want to do is teach this horse to overcome the flight reflex. This is what really controls horses so much, so that they learn to use their brains and think instead of responding instinctively. So I'm going to stroke the back and give him 3 signals to come forward. My voice, I'm going to say walk. I'm going to give him a signal on the chain and a stroke and a tap. So walk, oh, and again 3 signals to stop. It's a whoa, a signal with the chain, and a tap on the chest. Now I'll just do this once more so you see again what I'm doing. And I stroke the back so that the horse doesn't tense the buttock muscles. If I just tap him like this, what happens often is horses just tense up and they'll either kick up or refuse to go forward. So stroke, signal walk, move on a little, that's it. Oh, that's good. Now I'm also going to teach my horse to stop from a movement and the voice, a movement of this wand out in front, and a tapping and stroking on the off shoulder. Now this is to teach him balance and to teach him to keep his spacing from me. So much of the time you'll see people standing around with their horses like this, and they can't figure out why they do what he's doing to me. Nibbling, fussing, wanting to make a contact with me because I'm too close to him. So I want him to learn self-control, to stay back, to keep his own balance. That's it. So when I get up on his back, he's already learned self-control and patience. Walk. Oh. Now if he doesn't stop from this, I tap on the shoulder. So you might want to try a couple of stops. Walk, oh, tap, stroke, and just bring this back out here to remind him to watch. This wand also focuses your horse so that he really begins to start to think and use this brain. Now I'm going to use a labyrinth or a maze, which we have laid out here, with 6 poles, 12 feet long, and I'm going to lead him through this in order to teach him to listen to me, to learn balance, to get his coordination before I expect him to carry me on his back. And you can save yourself weeks of training in balance by a few sessions through the labyrinth. Come. Oh. Oh. Now I want his head at about this level. If he wants to bring it low, I'll bring it up a little. If I have a horse that's high-headed, I'll bring it down because I want him to be in balance around these corners. Oh. Now that was very nice for his first time through. He's listening, he's stopping, and I will stop him generally once or twice in each line of the labyrinth. Come. Oh. Notice that I am leading him slightly ahead of his nose rather than back here at the shoulder. When I'm back here, he leads me. When I'm just stepped up slightly, I'm now leading him. I'm going to introduce him to another position in the labyrinth, and this teaches him patience and balance and to stay back, self-control. So I'm going to simply step out, turn, and bring this wand between us. And this is normal. They'll, of course, want to go forward because nothing is holding him back. So I'm going to give him a little bump, a little wrap on the chain. Each horse will be slightly different. And move the wand back and forth quietly, and slide back from him. So I want him to stay back until I ask him to come forward. Now I'm going to ask him to step. Oh, very good. Oh. Now I want him to stay there and not move until I get around the corner and ask him to move. Good. Very good. That's nice. And I don't want to be too close to him or I interfere with his balance. That's nice. Good. I'll just stroke him a moment. That was very nice concentration. Easy, easy. That's a good one. Now that's my fault, not his. I didn't give him enough space to turn. Good. Stay back. Very good. Stay back. Shh, shh, shh. That was nice. Now you need, again, to practice this 2 or 3 times in the labyrinth and also out of the labyrinth over a period of several days. Come. I'm going to show you a third position, a third way to lead your horse through. And this is to teach them to come up from behind. And this is very important as far as getting on your horse and having them go forward when you ask them to, with understanding, without fear. Because you are going to use the stick or the wand at first to have your horse go forward when you're on their back, and you're going to combine it with the leg. So now I'm going to ask him to come forward, stop. Easy. Come. Oh. Around the corner, stop. That's nice. Walk. Oh. Walk. Oh. Now I have to change sides here so that I'm on the inside of the turn. Good. Oh. Oh. Now you see, he was a little nervous because I surprised him by touching him on this side. That was a little bit unexpected. And he'll get used to it. You want to work your horses from both sides so that you'll actually change this chain over so it's from this side in order to develop your horse's foot-eye coordination so that when you're riding later you won't run into horses that are stiff on the right. It's very simple to change to correct that problem and to prevent it in the beginning from working from the right side also. You might want to do just a few minutes of this labyrinth work in the 3 positions for several days. Don't overdo it. Don't bore your horses. They learn much faster than we normally believe. Now I want him to learn to stay back, to learn the statue exercise so that, back, oh. It's another way of teaching obedience without force. Very simple for him to learn this in a few moments, not to move unless I ask him to. And even though I walk around, he just stands there. Just keep his attention with the wand. And stroke him with it frequently so that he actually likes to be touched, that he feels confidence when you reach out and touch him with it. Oh. Walk. 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 Good. This is the first time that he's tried this lesson of just walking keeping his distance from me. Walk. And he thinks he can just take off when I get him out on this longer line. And I want him to learn to be obedient even when I'm not close to him. So I keep him back with a signal from the wand. Stroke. Slow down. Slowly. Slow down. And he's thinking about just leaping forward here because that's what he's learned on the lunge line. And I want a horse to be obedient on the lunge line, to go out there and walk and trot and canter on command, not because he's just running out at the end of that line. Shh. So I start them this way, short. Good. Quiet. That's better. No, no. And I want his attention all the time. Good. Oh. Oh. That's good. When he stops, I want him not to turn to swing his body. I want him to stay on the arc of the circle. Oh. Good. Walk. Easy. Oh. Oh. Now stay back. Oh. That's better. I want him to think, not just react reflexively. Oh, that's better. That's a good boy. Trot. Trot. Quiet. Good. Walk, walk, walk. That's a boy. Slow down. Slowly, slowly. Trot. It's quiet, son. Quiet. Easy. 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 Walk. Walk. No. Stand. Stand. Shh, 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 shh. Oh. I'm going to give him a thump on the chest, not as a punishment, but to teach him to hold himself back. Because when he gets excited, he just starts rolling without any control. So I stop him, and I stand square to the chest, give a couple little taps, whoa, and a really solid whoa, and I want him to take a step back. So then I stroke him again, walk him forward, whoa. Good boy. That's a boy. That's it. Good. We'll just, oh, usually that's all it takes. After that, I can just move the wand and use my voice. Oh, very good. That's it. And I want to keep then just reassuring him by stroking. We're going to introduce Robbie to these poles so that he learns to simply walk over them quietly, to look where he's going, to be able to focus on something. And be sure that you give your horse enough line that you're not interfering, that they can put their head down and look at the poles. So we'll walk him over once more, and this time give him lots of line so that you're about another 3 feet from that chain. Give him a lot of space and keep him away from you by moving the wand between you and your horse. Good. Little more space. You can give him a longer line. Good. Now it would be good to practice this until he walks quietly and trots quietly on a long line. So you're right out at the end of that line and he doesn't try to run past you or to slow down or speed up. You can go into your third position and just quietly stroke and tap him on the croup and get him to trot along. Give him the words command, trot. Good. That was nice. Keep trotting. Keep him moving. Tap him on the croup. You want to get back farther. Good. That's nice. Now you don't have to trot over the poles yourself. You can stay out and let him trot over the poles. And then he'll go through the middle. Nice. Very nice. That's it. Very nice. Now just stop him and reward him quietly. And don't forget to reward your horses. It's so easy to get intent upon what we want them to do and forget that they need to have a little time to think and to integrate what we're teaching them and also to know that they're doing a good job.
Linda will leave Robbie for a while and show you some additional team ground exercises useful in preparing your horse to be ridden.
This is Lady, a 3-year-old quarter horse mare. I'm going to show you some of the other team learning exercises that you can do with your horses. And we're going to begin here with plastic. Now you might wonder why we would work with plastic in a paddock, but this is to teach your horse to go through any kind of a situation you want them to. When you come to a ditch or water or a narrow part on the trail, we want that horse to go forward. So we start here at home on the ground with plastic. We've cut 2 pieces of plastic that are 10 feet long and 3 feet wide. And instead of just walking over them in the first place and getting into a bit of a hassle, we're going to make it easy for her. Slightly easy. Easy, Now you notice how she's shying at this side. I want to watch that she doesn't jump over here and hit this and be surprised. So I'm going to back her up again and make sure that she sees this. That's a good girl. And I want her to learn to keep her spacing from me. You know how often you're out in the trail and you get off to perhaps lead your horse over a difficult place and the horse has a tendency to jump on you. It's normal because where you are feels safe to them. So I want to show her, keep your spacing. So I get out at the end of this line and just tap her. Keep her away from me. Good girl. That's better. Shh, 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 shh. That's a good girl. It's very good. That's very nice. Oh. Now we'll put it closer together. Just cross the other ends. Leave that end open, and we'll bring that close. We want to set up a little bit of difficulty. That's it. And if I would see that she's nervous about it, I would simply bring her to this point, stop her, back off, so that she goes through that part herself. That's it. Quiet. Good. Good girl. Oh. This mare has done this a little bit before, so we don't get the nervousness that she showed the first time we did it. So with your horse, if she's nervous, just put a little grain down on the plastic and let her eat a little. Careful. That's a girl. It's all right. It's okay. Good. Now instead of getting in a wrestling match with her. I'm just going to touch her from behind. Easy. Touch her on the neck so I make sure she doesn't come my way. Careful, careful, careful. Good. It's okay. Shh. That's a girl. Very good. That's nice. Oh. Now notice that I keep my spacing from her. If I get too close, I'm not giving her a chance to really learn to think. Now I need 4 people with grain in your hand so that we can change this plastic. This is a good exercise to teach your horse to go into narrow places and of course to prepare them to go into the horse trailer, which is also narrow. That's a girl. Now I'll just let her look a minute. I don't want to rush her. You can let her have a little sniff and a little nibble of grain out of your hand. A lot of people don't like to feed grain because they think that we're bribing the horse. But remember that what we want her to do is have a good experience when she's afraid and to breathe. Come. Hold. Look at her ears. They kind of go to the side, shows you that she's uncertain. So I'm going to do lots of stroking on her back. Ask her to come forward. Hold. Good girl. Hold. Now, if she wants to get a little rushy, I'll just let her go through the first time slightly faster. Because if I do that once or twice, she'll find out that this doesn't hurt her. That's a good girl. Oh. Now you can raise it up a little bit. Good. Oh. Now we're going to let her get some grain out of this side. It's the same grain. This time when she comes through pet, you give her a little so she doesn't want to rush so. Good girl. Now I'll just get in this second position and give her little bumps to stay back. Keep yourself back. Good. Careful. Good girl. That's nice. Now you see that time she slowed down herself. Now let's lower the plastic slightly so we have it at different levels. So each level has a little different angle for her. Let's bring them closer together now. I don't like to wave this plastic around or threaten her in any way. It's enough that the plastic is just there. That's a good girl. That's a girl. Stay back. Stay back. Come on. Keep yourself back. Want to teach her when she feels a little bump on her nose that she holds herself back. Good. That's better. Good. Now let's bring it up once more really high. This is useful for horses who are going to be shown in indoor arenas so that they get used to things up getting higher than they are. It's also, of course, useful to get a horse used to that height before you get on their backs. That's it. Whoa. Now you see she doesn't want to come forward, so I'll use this third position. Easy, and ask her from the wand to come forward. Good, good, good. Hold, stand. Good girl. Easy. Stroke the back, tap the croup. Hold. Now she can't stop in there. It's just too threatening. Give her a little chance. That's a good girl. Now you can see she's still a little nervous, so we're going to back up a little and make it just a little bit easier. Lower it, because she's doing very well. She's really trying, but she's holding her breath. Good girl. So lower it again, easy, very quietly. Quiet. Shh, shh, shh. Good girl. It's all right. It's all right. That's nice. Good. That's it. That's very good. Hold. Hold. roll it up and bring her under it. This is just another exercise to teach obedience, to have her come forward no matter what you ask her to do, and to control her uncertainty. That's a girl. That's it. It's okay now. Come. It's enough. It's enough. Easy. Easy. Quiet. Now I have to be very careful that she doesn't run over me because she's wanting to head right in my direction, so I tap her away. Come. Quiet. Good girl. So careful. It's all right. No, no, no. Bring her head down. Quiet. Good girl. Good lady. That was very good. That's it. We'll give her a little bite of grain. And she had to be brave to do that. Just build up her courage a little. And you notice when she takes a little spurt forward, I don't try to stop her. I want her to have the feeling that she's a little bit free at first. Walk. Oh. I'm going to ask her to bring her head down and touch her on the croup at the same time. It's a good girl. Bring her head down. Come on. Down you come. Nope. Easy, lady. Come down. Come down. Oh, that's a girl. Shh. Good girl. Easy. Quiet. It's all right. It's all right. That's a girl. It's okay. It's okay. Good. Now you notice how quickly she can learn to control herself if she has an opportunity to think about it. Easy. Easy. Come down. Come on down. Good girl. Oh. I'll just remind you again that by touching her from behind, she learns that no matter what I ask her to do, she must come forward. That's very good. That's nice. And remember to associate this touch with the wand on the croup with your leg, so that when you're on your horse's back and you ask them to go forward, instead of kicking and pushing with the seat, just reach down and touch them with the stick and close the leg, and they've already learned to obey that aid for coming forward. Well, now we have given him some exercises to train his brain and use the touch to get his body prepared for the saddle. And we're going to introduce the driving and the saddle. Before I actually put a saddle on him, I'm going to start with the pad so he gets used to carrying something on his back. And it's useful to first make sure that your horse is accustomed to a stall blanket before you go to this stage. So if you bring him forward, we'll just let him see this. That's it. And rather than put the saddle and girth on him first, I'll just let him get used to something on his back. That's good. That's good. Now he's obviously not afraid of that. What I'm going to do now is allow him to walk in a circle and allow the pad to drop on the ground and stop him, so that when the pad drops, he learns to stop, not to be afraid. So that at any time in the future, anything that ever happened, like a loose saddle or somebody falling off him, he would know to stop. Now, we may do this 2 or 3 more times at the walk and then also do it at the trot. If your horse is nervous about it at all, just take some grain along and give them a little food reward so that they associate something good with that stopping and thinking. Now we're going to introduce the surcingle to him. With many horses, this is not necessary step between the saddle pad and the saddle, but it's added insurance if you're not experienced. We'll just quietly put this on him over the pad and let him get accustomed to the pad on his back and something around his middle. See, I want this loose here so that there's no threat to him, that he's not suddenly going to feel the pressure of the girth and jump forward or be goosey from it. And each stage like this, make sure that your horse isn't afraid. If it is, go back a step. Take a little bit more time. Do a little bit more of the touch, or bring in some grain and let your horse eat and chew while you're going through this step. Because if they can understand what it is you're asking them to do, they're not going to give you a rodeo. They're not going to be afraid. Yeah? You can understand that. So let's just lead him off now. And I'll just hold this and let him feel the pressure. So that if I see him get it all threatened by this, I just loosen up a little. That's a boy. I'll just tighten this another hole. Just move it around on his back a little bit. Now this is a stage that you might want to go through for a day or so. And I like to walk them in hand, trot them in hand, walk them over the poles, trot them over the poles, so they really get used to this little bit of pressure. And you don't need it too tight. You just need it tight enough that this doesn't slip. But don't tighten it up so much that the horse is uncomfortable. Now we're going to introduce the driving lines to teach him to stop, to turn left and right. We can do it either with the surcingle or with the saddle. In this case, I'll just use it on the surcingle. Now you notice I'm not snapping this onto a bit. I'm using a halter. And I do this so that there's no pressure on this horse's mouth until he already knows what it means to go left and right and to stop. And what I'm doing here is using a 3/8 inch nylon rope. I don't want one that's too heavy. And I've cut this so they're 20 feet long. And I'm going to let him get accustomed to one at a time rather than putting both of them on. So we'll just lead him forward and let him get used to this around his legs. So first, of course, we'll turn him to the left so he just kind of sees this drag. Keep going a little farther so he sees this dragging behind him. Okay, stop him and stroke. That's right. Now he's a little concerned, as you can see. He's looking back at it. So I'm just going to get him to breathe by feeding him a little. And you want to feed oats, not pellets, so they can't choke on them if they're a little bit nervous. All right, let's go ahead and walk him forward again. Go left. That's it. Now you can see he gets accustomed to this very quickly, and he's never had the ropes on him before. Walk him forward again and to your right. And I'm going to slowly let this just touch him. Now stop. This little lesson is insurance. In the case when anything touches his sides, like a branch when you're riding out, or rope gets around him or a dog runs under your horse, so that they are not afraid of things around their legs. And because he's so quiet, we'll put the other line on him now. Now, so this isn't dragging too much on the ground at first. I'm just going to cross this over his back. So that they actually hit him up a little higher at first. So you can walk him off that way and over the poles. Now, sometimes your horse will be a little nervous for the first 5 or 10 minutes, and so you just want to do whatever you have to do to take away the fear. Give them grain so they're not afraid of those ropes. Now stop him. And I'm going to pick them up and begin to let him feel a pressure. That's good. That's a boy. And give him time to think about it a little. Don't rush him. As you can see, we don't have him in a round pen. A lot of people believe that you can only start a horse in a round corral. If you give them a little time to think about what it is you want them to do, you don't have to get them in a confined place. Okay. We just walk forward, walk. We'll go forward and we'll go to the left. And make sure that you're far enough behind that there's no chance of you getting kicked if your horse suddenly felt good. And stand off a little bit to one side. It's just good insurance. And I want him relaxed in this process. Now we'll just take him over the poles to give him something to think about. Good. Go left. Now I'm going to start to guide him. Walk forward. Come on, a little faster. Good. Now I'm going to ask him to go right. So when you have an assistant, you tell your helper what you're going to do before you turn. Easy, son. Quiet. Good. With the surcingle, just go ahead and make sure he's not afraid of it. And just slip it quietly up on his back. This does not have to be any traumatic event. That's a boy. Oh. That's a boy. Now I want this a little bit loose again in the beginning, not really tight. And of course tight, snug enough that he's not going to get in trouble if he suddenly took a jump. But we want to stop him from jumping. So if he suddenly got nervous, we just get his attention and make him stand still. That's what he's been prepared for all of these lessons. I'll just do this one snugger now. That's good. And this has elastic on it too, so that it has some give. Now let's just take him forward a couple of steps and stop him. And stop him squarely, so you don't pull his head to the left at all. That's it. Now I'm going to go up and just tighten this. That's the boy. Okay, why don't you just turn and lead him through the pole so he has something to think about. So bring him through the bales here, and let's get him used to walking between these. All right, just lead him on around in a circle now, and let's ask him to trot with the saddle on. Sometimes they're a little draggy at first with the saddle. Very nice. And walk. And stop him and just stroke him under the neck quietly. Walk him forward again and ask him to trot like that, several times walking and trotting. Till he feels really certain about the saddle on his back. Tell him to trot with your voice. Trot. Easy. Very nice. That's a big improvement for him over the first time he trotted without a saddle even. Work your horse for a few days like this with the saddle, leading them from both sides, leading them at the walk and trot, through the poles. You go back to the labyrinth. Just set up some different obstacles to accustom your horse to obedience from the ground before you get on the back. Now we're going to put the driving lines on him so that you see when you're using a saddle how to fasten them and how to drive them. Now I adjust this stirrup so that the bottom of the stirrup iron is at the lower part of the flap. And this is just a good height for the driving reins. And since he's already had them on him with the surcingle, we can go ahead and put both lines on him. Now I'm just crossing these lines across the saddle since he hasn't driven before with the saddle. And I'll tighten this one more hole. I'll just let him walk off now and drag the lines. Turn him to the right. Let's stop here a moment. When you're leading your horse, really be aware of where the horse's head is. Our great tendency is to always have that head a little to us when we're leading from the left side. So that what you do is teach that horse before he's ever ridden to be out of balance. So be aware of the head, keep him over away from you with the movement of the wand, and watch yourself that you don't pull him to you. Let's move him forward. That's nice. Just move him along. Just walk right along. We'll go to the left. And I'll just drop these lines now down his sides of his thigh. And that was nice. When I dropped the lines, you notice that he slowed down instead of speeding up. That shows that he's not afraid, that he has confidence. Of course, I wouldn't want him to stop. It's not that slow. It's just relaxing. Go left. Oh. That was very nice. You see, with the lines a little higher, his tendency to keep his head in a more balanced place is much better. All right, walk. Give him a little slap on the side of the thigh to get him to go forward. Quiet, slowly, easy. Come on. Oh. Now, I don't want him to drop his head like that. So what I want Copper to do is help him so that he stops from a motion toward the chest or a tap on the chest with the wand up there, because we want him to stop with his head up. Walk, walk, good. Oh, that's much better. You see, it doesn't take much rein. I had to give him less rein so that he listens right now more to the voice commands. Now that was nice, and what I suggest that you do is just go on practicing like that until your horse gets this. And now we'll go on with him to the next step. We're going to drive him through the bales now so that he gets used to going through a narrow place and also gets used to somebody being up above his back. So you walk through first, Copper, so he sees where to go. That's good. We go right. Now if I could get Pat to come and stand up on these bales, and we'll drive him through there. Walk. That's a boy. Easy, easy. Now you see, he's a little concerned about somebody being up there. So we're going to make it easy for him. You step down on this side. Yep, that's it. We'll lead him through. Walk. Oh. Now you step up there again. That's a boy. And just stroke him. You can see what happens when a horse first has something higher than they are. This is where you run into trouble sometimes when you first mount. So this is a step that's well worth the few minutes that it takes. And just stroke his croup too. That's better. You can reach up because we want him to be used to being touched all over his body before he ever gets a rider up there. So just reach back and touch the top of his croup and the saddle. You see, many horses are really frightened when they first feel a hand up there or the person in the saddle. Good. Now we'll just drive him on through. Walk, walk. Go to your right again. We'll bring him through again. Oh, now just let him stop and look when he's a little bit uncertain. Good. If we give him a few minutes like this, it gives him an opportunity to use his brains. Walk. Oh, whoops. Now you can see it's pretty easy for him to lose his balance when he's not sure. So we'll again make it easier. We'll just open this bale up a little bit so it's wider between the two of them. That's it. Walk him on around again. Walk. Now you just walk straight on through. Now that he has a little more space. Easy, son. It's all right. It's all right. That's good. Now, Pat, why don't you just step down and come to the other side and step up on this bale. We'll just do this a few times to accustom him to the height. You see how he tenses up again? When you're working at home, say you've just got one friend to help you, one assistant, then you might want to do this up against a fence, so one side of the fence is higher. Or you just, what you could also do, and we'll do this the next time, is copper step up there. Okay, we'll walk him through. Walk. Good. That's good. Easy. That's it. Good. Oh. Stand. Okay, now step up on there again. You come up on one side, and Copper, you get on this side. Sure. I'll just hold him here. Easy, son. Easy. Notice his eye. You reach out and touch him. As soon as you touch them, it helps as a rule. You wouldn't think, as quiet as he is, that this would bother him, and it's really a step to keep in mind. And kind of rub him, do the circles on him, make him feel good when you're up there, so that he likes you up there. Now you could also give him grain, but you have to watch with some horses that they don't get too greedy, and then the grain becomes a detriment. Whereas the circles that he already knows relax him, and he'll breathe. He can have a bite of that. Okay, step down and we'll walk him on through, and if you'll just bring those bales close together again, walk. You can make your circle a little bit wider. Good. Let's just turn him left and come over the poles here just to break his line of thought here. And then we'll go straight into the bales. Go right. We're going through the bales. Good. Don't rush this. You know, don't do too much of it. Generally 10 minutes of this maximum in the bales like this the first day, and then after that just do this as part of your general exercises until this is really easy for him to walk through and expect to have this comfortable. I really recommend that you use this stage of driving between the bales with a helper standing up on them like this, so that you do accustom the horse to movement above the saddle. I'm sure some of you have had an experience where you're riding that young horse and you forget that it's green and you suddenly reach up to blow your nose or touch your hat or something and have the horse explode. If you do the circles on the back from above and get them used to that movement up there, you won't run into that problem. With the driving, it's customary that a horse be driven alone without an assistant. But since we're teaching this horse to drive in this particular T.E.A.M method so that they understand left, right, stop, and go in balance, I suggest that you don't drive the horse alone, because it's really easy to give an incorrect signal or a signal that the horse doesn't understand. And this way, everything that you do, you've got somebody up there helping that horse to understand what you want. So my recommendation is skip the step of driving alone and just go directly now to mounting and riding. Now we've put a Western saddle on him to ride him for the first time, because this tape is for people who start horses both Western and English. And if you have a choice between Western or English, it's easier on the horse, I think, to start Western, because the Western saddle distributes the weight more evenly over the horse's back, even though it's a little heavier. And with the headpiece, I don't start a horse in a bit. I start them in this side pull. And the reason I do it is that the horse has been accustomed to paying attention now and stopping easily on the halter, and with this nose piece on him, he can understand more clearly stopping and starting and turning, and it doesn't affect his balance in the same way that a bit does. He's more balanced in this. So you notice how I have this fitted? It fits, the nose piece is about 3 fingers below the cheekbone, and I just have it snug enough that when you press like that, there's a little give, you see, here. Easy. It's not too tight, but it won't slip around. And if you have a horse with a sensitive nose, it's worthwhile just to put a little piece of padding on this nose piece. So I have attached now the lead chain over the side pull, across the nose, just like the halter, and up to this side ring. And the reins go on these 2 little rings that take the horse's head to the side. So I'm going to mount with assistance. And I find that if you do this for the first 2 days, your horse is accustomed to somebody at the head. First thing you want to do is make sure that your horse is well balanced, that they're standing with their feet under them and not spread out. Oh. Back up. Back. Good. And I'm just going to move this saddle on his back and go to both sides. So he gets used to me up here. Easy. That's it. And you can see he's quiet, he keeps his ears up, he's not threatened by me now. Now don't hold him quite so close, just hold him about here. And I want to check my girth, my cinch. I don't want it too loose and I don't want it too tight. That's good. Easy, son. You can see him tense his neck, lift the neck up. When he does that and puts the ears back a little, he's letting us know that he's not so sure about this. No. So I want to bring his head down a little. And relax that back. Come on. That's a boy. Oh. Okay. And with the bales, another reason that I get up here is that I don't pull the horse off balance like you do if you mount from the ground. It takes a horse a little bit of time to get accustomed to a person mounting them. Okay. Now when he puts his ears back like that, I want those ears to go up, not back. So I'm going to just press right here behind the ear, rub forward on the pannus reflex to get those ears forward. So I don't want him thinking about being a grump or resisting. Easy. Now you see when I come to this side, oh, he's nervous again, and I want him to be accustomed to me being on both sides of him, not just one side. Oh, that's a boy. That's better. That's it. Now, let's get those ears up. Now, I really like to watch their ears and see what they're thinking and how they're breathing. Easy, son. And keep him with me so that he's not feeling resistance. And he's definitely not sure of this. Come on. Go to the other side. I want to come on this side to be sure that when this leg comes over to this side that it doesn't surprise him. No. Yeah, you can come on this side now. It's a good boy. Stand quietly now. Good fellow. That's it. That's easy. Good. Easy. That's a good boy. So don't hold him too tight. You just want to keep a little light feel of him so he doesn't feel too restrained, but you do have control of him. It's a good boy. Stand quietly now. Good fellow. That's it. That's easy. Good. Easy. That's a good boy. So, okay. Good. That's very good. There. Now he just took a breath and chewed. It's a good sign. You see, he dropped his head a little, took a bit of a breath. It's all right. Easy. Oh. I need the wand again. The other one. It's all right. Good. Good. Walk. Oh, that's nice. That's nice. We'll turn. Walk. Good boy. That's it. Oh. There you go. That's a boy. Easy. Just walk forward. Good. That's it. Now he has to learn how to balance my weight. So I just take a few steps forward and stop. Walk. Good boy. Oh, that's nice. That's very good. Another step or two. Walk. Come. That's a boy. Oh, that's very good. This is the first time this horse has actually been mounted, and I want it to be successful. So the first day, I just ask him to take a few steps and stop, and a few steps and stop. And I want him to, of course, stand perfectly still while I mount him. And he has to have an opportunity to get used to this weight up here, to learn how to balance. We don't think about it, but horses have to use different muscles when they start to carry us. And this is why I don't bit a horse in the beginning, because when you bit them up and put more pressure on their back, you're really starting muscle back pain in a lot of cases. So I like to start them on this side pull at first and keep them a little bit collected, but not too collected. Now, in order to back him and get a little collection, Copper will just help him a little from the front, and I just tap him from up here. You see, it's pretty simple if you don't overdo it. So what I would recommend with him is tomorrow we'll just ride him lightly. Perhaps the first 5 minutes or so she would lead him, and then I would ride him at the walk and probably the trot alone. And I want to make sure before Copper no longer leads him that he understands that when I squeeze and give a little tap and say walk, that he goes forward. You see him suck back a little there? She has to help him because he doesn't understand that command. Walk. That's it. Oh. You see how that helped him? Now, if she wasn't there to help him, I'd have to get after him a little bit to make him go forward, and then he'd start to get stiff. So we'll just do that once more. Stroke him, walk, walk. Good. Oh. That's it. Now remember that this horse has not had a chance to develop his muscles to carry my weight. And it's important that you give your horse the opportunity to get strong with you on your back before you start asking a lot of them. When you begin to work him in the first few weeks, work him lightly so that he can think with you and doesn't wind up being tired. Because that's how you get into sore backs and resistance, is when they get tired. We'll just turn him once here, walk, that's a boy, walk, that's nice. You notice I sit lightly on his back. I don't sit back to get him to come forward. I just walk him forward another step. Good. Oh. Now we'll back him up another step. Back. Back. Hard to believe that this is really the first time he's been ridden. That's it. Oh. That's very nice. All right. Now it's okay. So enjoy the steps of the teamwork and enjoy working with your horse as a team. I have been teaching this method for many years now and have had a great deal of success with amateurs starting their own horses. I would very much like to hear from any of you who have successes or have questions. And my sister Robin Hood edits a quarterly team newsletter in which we write case histories of people all over the world who've had success with this team method. So we would certainly like to hear from you, and I wish you good luck and good riding.